Hi, this is Ed, just back here with a very quick video in regarding the Cybertruck attack, or explosion there with the bomb. We'll get into some of the satellite things in regarding that in a moment, but before I do, I'm just going to play a video here, which is via a Navy SEAL contractor called Shawn Ryan. On his podcast, he had an individual in that said that they were sent a letter by the individual associated with this Cybertruck attack, i.e. the Green Beret. So we're going to take a look at that information in a second, but before I do, just very quickly, 99 cents. The lift is currently 99 cents there on Amazon if you want to pick it up. And if you have picked it up, if you have read it, if you could leave me a review, that would be great. Or, even just a star rating. You don't have to write anything out. You could just leave a star rating. Just an honest one is all I ask for. And also the bootstrap paradox is 99 cents as well. I'm going to read you an interesting review for the lift coming a bit later on, but before I get into that, of course, let's get into this letter here in regarding this Cybertruck explosion. Now, what I've done is I will play the video and then I'm going to put the letter on screen so you can read it. That's about as good of a copy as I could get. I have redacted some extra things because I am putting this on YouTube. Of course, you can go find the letter for yourselves if you want that information. So let's take a look at the video here that was sent to Shawn Ryan.
You want to read the email?
Yep. So this email came in on December 31st.
And obviously, I have sped it up a little bit for transformative reasons.
You want to read the email?
Yep. So this email came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, "In case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones," he puts that in quotes, he says drones, "is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the US. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operation Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive V-bid. Let me pause right there for a second. So he says a massive V-bid. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a V-bid was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
Are you fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice, and he goes, "You said that word V-bid. Can you tell me what that is?" For your audience, a V-bid, for your audience who has not been in the GWOT for the last 20 years, a V-bid is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower. So, backing up, he says, "I am armed and have a massive V-bid. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me." Here's where he gets into the other stuff, and this is where we had to redact the names. Well, your producer redacted the names. "I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz Province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, that's civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA, an agent, redacted, of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with, redacted, IO staff on this as well as the response to Bala Murghab. Redacted, commander at the time, redacted, can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation." Then he says, "For vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18 Zulu out of 110, that's 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces."
You want to read
dig into the guy. But my issue was I couldn't validate or verify.
Okay, so that's pretty much it there for that one. Here is the other part of the letter here, so that's the last part. He's just basically reading what's on screen. So there's a number of interesting things in there, so let's just really get right into that. So what's my opinion on it? Well, it's kind of interesting to me that what is said in that particular document that was sent via the email sort of kind of like runs parallel to basically the narrative that's been constructed, right? The drones, anti-gravity drones, that's another narrative that's been constructed. Where is there any evidence whatsoever that these drones had kind of insane capabilities? I don't see any at all. I'm just going on what my observations are. Of course, yours might be different. So that's the narrative. So the narrative from there is anti-gravity type technology that's been hidden from the public, which I think is true. I think that's actually true. But has he got access to that? Maybe. Maybe he got access and that's what he's talking about. However, it goes back to the drones again. What's happening with the drones? So that was the interesting takeaway there, is that he was saying that there was this anti-gravity technology. He also references obviously something that happened there in Afghanistan, which is kind of quite interesting. Those are the things being mentioned in that particular video, largely anti-gravity technology. Now, if you go over to another Green Beret here, this person runs a Green Beret channel with, things about Green Beret stuff. This individual here states that something fishy is regarding all this. This is what he states. If that particular vehicle was improvised to make an explosive vehicle, this individual says here that it would have been much more devastating, because Green Berets and this person that blew up this particular Cybertruck, at least the press is saying that they are a Green Beret, for whatever grain of salt that's worth. But that's what they're saying. So he's saying here, if that is a Green Beret, then they are trained in how to use explosives. They said today that they're very trained in the specific arena, and they're trained to use explosive devices to create maximum damage. So it doesn't seem to wash with him. The execution of it doesn't seem like it was done, by someone that had that type of training. Now, here's some interesting details. If you would expect him, if he had this type of training, to have weakened the Cybertruck in ways that would have enabled maximum damage, because they'd look at the object and they'd say, well, I'm going to put explosives in here. How can I maximize damage? Because they're trained in order to think like that, right? Not actually create car bombs, but what I mean is if they have a target to create maximum damage, that's what that Green Beret is stating right here in that particular video, which you can see the time code I'm listening to it at. So the bomb would have exploded, right? It would have blown apart. But it didn't, because the Cybertruck has a type of metal frame, and it wasn't weakened in a way which would have created this maximized explosion. Or, i.e., generically, the back wasn't loaded with panels weren't weakened, and it wasn't loaded with whatever, 200 kilos worth of nuts and bolts, or whatever the case is. Now, the thing about it is that it was just didn't really do anything. The explosion went through the top roof of the Cybertruck, but not through anything else, right? The windows, the lowest points, the weakest points of the car is where these explosions, that's where the explosive force went. So that's kind of interesting. So that Green Beret has that side of the story. He says in his title, something smells fishy about it, and that's what he goes into, some of that. Now, who knows? But that's what happens. I'll tell you one thing that's interesting, though. If you have a head of a company like Tesla, let's say Elon Musk, you can see in the specific instance how he handled the negative publicity around this, how actually good he is at selling things. He's basically the world's greatest salesman, no doubt about it. Also the world's apparently #1 Diablo player, which that isn't easy to accomplish either, right? You need to have super fast reflexes for that, and he's 50 years old. So you would expect that his reflexes have actually slowed down in order to get to that level, because it doesn't keep on accelerating. So what you're seeing is the lowest form of his, apparently, skill set, which would have been the most optimal in his 20s. And he's still number one in the world, which you need to have insane, like, eye-hand coordination, apparently. I've never played Diablo myself, but from what I have looked into or read about, you have to need insane eye-hand coordination. But it's not surprising. If you're number one at something, you'd probably be number one at something else as well if you put your hand to it. Why do we know that? Look at Magnus Carlsen, one of the greatest the greatest chess player of all time. He's also number one in fantasy football as well, which apparently is the big thing that's big in UK. Not easy to do. Okay, it's not easy to be the number one in two different areas like that. But here is really the interesting thing. Elon takes this, and then what does he say? He says this proves how strong the Cybertruck is, because the Cybertruck, the explosion went through the roof and the windscreen. It didn't go through the sides. So this shows you how strong and structurally sound the Cybertruck is. He turns it into a sales pitch. It's amazing. I mean, that's what you'd expect from someone that is the head of a company, that they aren't actually trying to drive it into the ground. Like the head of, if you look at New Zealand as a country or a company, it's been driven into the ground. But whatever. That's what he had to say anyway about that. Here are the two screen caps, as you can see on screen. He talks about drones, anti-gravity technology, the fact that he's been followed by the FBI. Okay, the FBI are tracking him. He says that he has maintained a very I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they have definitely digitally been tracking him. So he's been trying to maintain a very visible profile. But they are not actually engaging with him because he had this VBID, or a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, i.e. they knew that his car had explosives on it. Now, is this even real, or is this some type of fantasy? What I mean is, it could be a fantasy on two levels. The individual could be under a fantasy, or it could be a constructed fantasy in order to sell the idea of the event. Whatever is being said, and I have no idea what's being said or how many levels of psyop this has to it, but I will say this: there is a message that's being sent, because the outcome of it is a message, right? The message is the Cybertruck blows up and outside Trump Tower. That's your message. And the message is mainly always meant for the public. So whether it's constructed, whether it's MK Ultra, whether this was all real, whether this was whatever, the message and outcome, the building blocks of it, whatever this is, the outcome or equal sign for it is that the message is, Trump Tower, Elon, explosion, right? As sending, you can probably kind of get the architecture of that specific message, right? What's interesting is they are saying that this particular individual, what happened, this is what Elon Musk tweeted. He said, good question. He said, what's going on at Fort Bragg, says Mike, and this is what Elon tweeted. It said, the suspects in yesterday's attacks on Bourbon Street in New Orleans and Trump Tower both served at Fort Bragg, the same military base Ryan Ruth visited over 100 times before attempting to take Donald Trump's life. Of course, Fort Bragg in the United States, very famous military base where you have Green Berets, right? But it's interesting that this particular place has been visited that many times, and by someone like Ryan Ruth, right? Who's visited it 100 times, and the person in the attack is apparently a Green Beret as well. Is it real? Okay, now I've seen a number of these channels with people apparently, and they say they're in the Special Forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs or whatever, and they all seem to be a sort of a certain type, right? Like Trump supporting or whatever the case is. A lot of them, I'd say, would lean in that kind of direction. It's interesting now the FBI would also have a profile in order to track these people. especially if they're outside of things, right? They'd actually be able to point to this now and say, well, they could do it in the past, but they'll be able to point to things like this and say, well, we need more funding in this area. Whatever the case is, this Cybertruck blast outside Trump Tower. So I don't know anything about what's happening. I mean, it's so much, because you can't trust the media. So you have to kind of get the angles to the story outside of the media, because the media is just a bunch of liars, right? They actively will tell the reverse truth of an event. And we've seen this multiple different times. We shouldn't go back to having goldfish memory. So the only thing to go on is the equal sign and the messaging after the event. The messaging after the event is pretty clear. Elon Musk, biggest ally of Donald Trump probably, who, by the way, they're trying to divide Donald Trump against Elon Musk. Whether you like these people or not, there is the angle that's been successful, I think, in some parts, is trying to play to Trump's ego and say that basically he's been a dog led around by Elon Musk, right? So they're trying to constantly divide them against each other. You've seen a lot of interesting influencers, quote unquote, actually trying to do this on Twitter. They were actually trying to actively divide these people against each other and construct issues which would divide them against each other before they're actually in power. That's the interesting thing. Before they have been sworn into power. Whatever you think, if you believe that there will be change, will you believe it's like a fantasy and it's all just theatre or WWF wrestling? The actual play looked like you're getting these kind of engineering situations, right? And obviously they'll get to RF Kennedy. As I've said, all I expect to ever happen, okay, at all, is maybe some documents. If we can get some documents, if RFK can get some documents, or someone can get some documents released regarding the leg waxing ceremony, then that will be major, not just in the United States, but the world, right? This is such a major issue. There is no closure on anything unless people are held accountable, and these people are absolute diabolical global criminals of the highest order that are behind it. I mean, you couldn't even factor them into a script in some James Bond narrative. No one would believe it. Right, the Dr. Evil is a ridiculous. The Dr. Evil is the character out of the Mike Myers kind of like Austin Powers thing. But there's no villain in any James Bond, any kind of film that actually comes anywhere close, not even joking, to what was done. It's just there's nothing even remotely close at all. So obviously those people have to go to jail. That's all. That's the only thing I'm expecting. I don't expect nothing anymore. I'm completely... My cynicism level is level 12. And I'll tell you how cynical it is. Actually, it's based upon reality. And we'll just jump over to the UK for a quick second here to this thing I heard. I was listening to... I don't know. It was this other person, some other guy from the UK. He's got a popular podcast, and he had the individual from trigonometry on it. The guy on trigonometry was basically just saying how the UK is gone, you can't accomplish anything there. Everyone he knows that's got any money is leaving. And when I was watching that, I was just thinking, yes, but none of them ever talk about the fact is you can see the design of it on purpose. It's by design. Look at all the policies. Look at the people involved. It's all by design on purpose. Here's the thing. Once it turns into a destructive, everything's just been destroyed. Nothing runs on time. You're dealing with Johannesburg, South Africa level, even lower than that. People are hijacking buildings over there. You can't, there's no... People are just out of control. It already is out of control. No one can afford to live, and I feel so sad for people in the UK because it's such a beautiful country, right? But when it gets to that stage, at least the people in the UK could probably, try to get over to Spain or somewhere, right? Apparently Spain's pretty good at the moment. Although I don't know, I'm sure about the economy, but turns quality of life, cheap food and things like that. But here's the thing. As soon as it gets to that level, then when everyone leaves and all the houses are bought up for pennies on the pound, okay, this is the technique. then suddenly the streets will be cleaned up. Do you really think that the individual who came from, I don't know, whatever, with a massive criminal record that they let into the country, you think that they're going to let him like continually like smash and break? No. It'll be a new type of law enforcement in town then. Okay? He'll disappear. Or he won't exist anymore. Or suddenly there'll be new legislation on deportations or whatever. This is what will happen. And what it'll look like? It'll look like the time, and you can see it, when Newsom cleaned up the streets of San Francisco, okay, and you could eat on the ground, you could like dance in the streets there. That wasn't full of like homeless encampments and stuff like that. That's sad because a lot of those people that are homeless are there for financial reasons as well, not just people that are there because, of drug addiction. But he actually cleaned the whole place up and it was spotless for Xi's visit. That's what the UK, well, that's what England will look like, Great Britain. It will be cleaned up. Maybe in 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20, because these plans are long, but that's what will happen. In the meantime, they want it to all go down the drain so they could buy it up on pennies of the pound. See, that particular narrative you never hear talk about anywhere because, well, you do hear it talked about some places, but not very often. Even though all the architecture of all the legislation, maneuvering, the people that know each other, you can all see it plain as day that they've been doing it on purpose. Plain as day, but no one talks about it. Same thing's happening here in New Zealand. New Zealand's gone down the sink. It's sad because I really love this country and it's such a beautiful country, and we were a very unique type of people, very nice lifestyle, I say 20-something years ago. And now they divided New Zealanders against each other. It's really sad, and a lot of New Zealanders took the bait and they destroyed everything. So it was largely the economies and tatters, right? The bubble of the real, I don't know why I keep on going on about it. The real estate bubble here is going to pop. You can't deal with the biggest migration cry with people leaving the country, and the only way you can offset that is try to get people to come in. And what are you doing? Like, you're just getting a lot of unskilled labor to come in, right? And we can't even sell or attract the greatest kind of labor anymore because we're not a desirable country on the same scale as we once were. It's quite sad indeed. Now, that's the Cybertruck narrative anyway, and a lot of other stuff in there. So thank you all for those reviews, by the way, as we head out. Got 2 reviews at the moment. Thank you to the Crow Flies, who had a great review there. But I'm going to read you Agent 23's only because it's a bit longer. Here's Agent 23's review on my book. No, I didn't write this myself, okay? Okay. Plus this person, I don't know, male or female, this person put the book there, and they put them in between 2 of these look like birds, look like actually crows or something like that. I'm guessing this is a reference to Norse mythology and the 2 crows and Odin. I don't know, just guessing. But Agent 23 said this: pick up the lift to what? How long have I been? 23 minutes. Pick up the lift to warm up your winter evening. Brevity, the hellish landscape of an inexplicable world. Max seeks riches beyond his imagination. Join this motorhead on his personal road to an alien El Dorado. It's so interesting. It's a great review there by Agent 23. Look, I don't expect glowing reviews, okay? Just give me an honest review. This is what I'm talking about to other people. I really appreciate this review, Agent 23. It's a great one. I read it a couple of times. Actually, I took these reviews by this one and Crow, basically all my reviews, and I put them in a little personal folder so I can read them later. After I fail my repeated failures, get in my review folder. My limited book sales, when I look at the book sales I get, I think to myself, because last week it wasn't too bad. This year's like 2 books. If I look at them and then I get a bit down, I go open up, I click on the personal folder. Not really. Well, yeah, I mean, these days, right, we have to, well, look, why I'm writing so much is because AGI is on the horizon, or if not, hasn't already arrived, as I talked about in the news roundup. and I figure I want to get out. I want to do a little bit of the human thing before it comes, right? Then we'll close up shop because we don't write anymore, because, you know, this book, which took me, I don't know, probably a month and a bit, it's only like a novella. This book, you know, everyone just can write one in like 1 second. I mean, you know, of course you can write your own books, but who's going to read them, right? I know, but I like this review from Agent 23, so thank you so much. I'll go down here a bit. Let's keep on reading, actually. Eldorado. Max is an ex-con seeking a lavish style for him and his dream girl, Natasha, so long as he can handle the heat. Can this thrill seeker outrun his impatience to mine the forbidden ore of his dreams with only a minute to spare? Come sweat it out with Max in this too hot to touch tale of intrigue and suspense. The Lift is an immersive read with scorching imagery. I had to crack open the window to let in the frigid breath of the Borealis to cool down as I followed Max on his quest to gilded treasures and fast cars. 10 out of 10. Bonus. I'm always interested in the music authors would pair with their stories. If that is something that piques your fancy, this tale comes with a smooth listening soundtrack of Cosmic Messenger. You might be aware of that particular track there, Cosmic Messenger. I cut out a little bit there on the screen cap, unfortunately. I meant to get the whole thing, but this particular window would only... So this grey bar, which you have to scroll down a bit. Thank you, Agent 23, for that review. And, of course, thanks to the Crow Flies for his feedback as well. And also that review there and so on and so forth. Thanks a lot. And that is the Cosmic Eldritch Horror. Harkening back there, of course, to H.P. Lovecraft. Eldritch Horror. Of course, referencing back to the cosmic horror there of H.P. Lovecraft. Thank you, the Crows Flies, and thank you, Agent 23, for those reviews. So there, that's pretty much it for today's video. And that's it, I guess. Yes, so if you did buy The Lift, or you did buy Boopshay Paradox, please consider leaving me an honest review of what you thought. And you can do that by a written review, or you can just do that by, you know, the star or whatever. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourselves. I'll see you all later.